Welcome back, everybody. So I'm going to talk to you a bit more about the Infra4NextGen data. Some of the topics have already been discussed, so I will move through them a bit quicker. I have also some kind of more technical details to give you, but let me just make a start. So the data that I will talk about is the Kronos 3 data, and this is the data that is specifically for the Infra4NextGen project, and the one that we have collected, as part of this project. So the Kronos 3 panel is a panel, a web and paper panel that supports the Infra4NextGen projects and a second project called So Green, which might be relevant for some of you. I'll briefly mention this one as well because it does cover green themes as well. So the Kronos 3 panel was collected in 11 countries, as David already mentioned, and these are the 11 countries that took part in Kronos. It is a panel that is input harmonized and centrally administered. So basically, a lot of the work is being done by the Kronos team at the ESS. The participants are recruited off the back of the ESS round 10 and round 11, as David already mentioned, and I'll tell you a bit more about this in a second. And in order to keep the panel as representative as possible, we use the mixed mode approach, web and paper self-completion questionnaires. The panelists involved in this Kronos 3 panel are all aged 18 and above. And in total, there are 8 waves. So here's how the panelists are recruited. So basically, on the back of the ESS round 10, which was a face-to-face or self-completion round because of the pandemic, we recruited the panelists for Kronos 2. And then 2 years later, when we collected the data on ESS round 11, we recruited more panelists. And so we moved the ones from Kronos 2 to Kronos 3 and recruited more panelists from ESS 11. The good thing about the Kronos panel is that you can link back to the data that participants provided in the ESS rounds. So not only do you have access to the Kronos data, which will be very relevant, but also you have a lot of background data from the ESS 10 and 11, and a lot of other variables that can be linked. So keep this in mind when you think about the analysis that you'll want to conduct. So in order to ensure representatives, we use both representativeness, we use both online and offline populations. The offline population is identified by the ESS variable net use oft, which is basically how often do you use the internet on different devices, whether for work or personal use. And everyone who answers never or only occasionally is assigned to the paper mode. And then they stay in that particular mode for the rest of the panel data collection. So this way, we make sure that people are comfortable kind of using the online version and those that are not receive the paper questionnaire. So talking about the Kronos panel, here is an overview of the fieldwork periods. So the Infra4NextGen project started, as I mentioned, 2 years ago in March 2024. And between March and September, we were on high-speed alert, trying to kind of compile the questions for the first wave of data collection, which happened between September and October 2024. And then we had another wave in November. So basically, the waves continued every 2 months until wave 5. So those are the Infra4NextGen waves, and all of that data is available. Last year in October, we had wave 6, and we're now getting ready for wave 7 and 8. And these are part of the So Green project. And the data for wave 6 will be available in the next couple of months, in case you're interested in that data as well. So we release the data for the 5 Infra4NextGen waves. Usually the data is released about 4 to 6 months after collection. The data is deposited by the national teams to our colleagues at SICT, the data archive in Norway. and they make sure that everything is in place, that data is anonymized, that everything is working as it should be, and then they release the data about 4 to 6 months later. But also in October last year, we have released another data file which basically contains all of the waves merged together. And this is an additional data set with all of the waves together, which basically allows you, for example, if you're interested in the green pillar, you can analyze all of the data together. So you have everything in one place. So you can, I'll show you in a second how you can download just the green themes, for example. When you download the Chronos waves, you can merge these to the original ESS data files. So the ESS from round 10 and 11, you need to download those as well. And the merging can be done using different variables, for example, ESS round, country, ID number, or mode. And next, I'm going to just briefly share a couple of details about the Chronos panel and just kind of give you an overview of what it is. So here is a slide showing you the recruited sample by survey mode. So as you see, we have collected this data from 11 different countries. And here you can see the panelists that are on paper in purple and the ones that fill out the questionnaire on web. And you'll see that there are differences, obviously, between the different countries. Some countries are definitely more digital. Other countries, for other countries, it still use the web, the paper version of the questionnaire. When we look at where the participants have been recruited from, this is basically an overview of the recruited sample by the different ESS rounds. So the round 10 are the red bars, and the round 11 are the green bars. And you'll see that Poland is only in green, and that is because Poland has only joined the Chronos panel after round 11. So they're one of our newest countries. We're looking currently at expanding the Chronos pool of countries. So right now we have 11, and we hope to kind of expand this as much as possible in the near future for future waves of Chronos. Here, I just want to show you the panel loyalty. So this is the percentage of panelists who completed all 5 waves, divided by the percentage of active panelists. And we define active panelists as participants who have at least taken part in one of the waves of Chronos. So as you see, we have quite a high percentage of panel loyalty. In some countries, it's higher than in others. Some countries had a bit of hiccups in the beginning until they found their footing in the panel. But I think overall, this is quite a good overview of the loyalty of the panel. And here I'm presenting the response rates. So the response rates for the 5 waves of Infra4NextGen. This is combining the web and paper together. So overall, I think you'll see the dotted line there. That is the total response rate for the panel, and it's about 60% or a bit over, like around 60%, I think, for the total. But some countries have higher response rates, others have slightly lower. You see from wave 1 to wave 2 that there has been an increase. As I said, there were a couple of things that had to be worked out in the beginning, and then participants basically continued to respond in the next few waves, and it went pretty well. So this is we have as I said, it's an centrally administered and inputs harmonized approach that we have to this panel. It's basically what this means is that we kind of do everything centrally. So we have our colleagues at Center Data in the Netherlands who manage the entire panel and everything related to it. But everything is done at specific points in time, right? So like everyone starts data collection exactly at the same time and finishes data collection exactly at the same time. The reminders, the invitations, all of them are sent exactly at the same time for all participants. And this is slightly different from how ESS data collection, so for the main study, happens, whereas there's a little bit more flexibility. With Chronos, we are quite prescriptive about how and when things should be done, just in order to keep everything kind of consistent across time. So I think this is basically a good overview. And you see that from when we start the first notifications, the postal pre-notification and the email invitation to the first reminder, there's quite a large kind of jump in response rates, and then it slowly kind of eases off over time. All of this is based on research, methodological research that has been done. So basically when we send the reminders, when we send the invitations, how we do it, it's all kind of based in methodological research that has been done. This is the response rates for the paper respondents. So remember a couple of slides ago, I showed you that in some countries we have paper respondents because they're quite important still. And this shows you the response rates for the ones that actually are part of that group of paper respondents. And as you see, it's also quite good, particularly in some countries. Maybe it's a bit better than other countries. So a bit more about the Chronos panel. So there are 5 waves in Infra4NextGen, and each wave has 90 questions. They are split between the 5 different pillars. So for example, for the green pillar, we have 18 items, 18 questions per wave. And in total, there are 90 questions. These questions were developed by the Chronos team together with our academic experts, with Wouter, who you met earlier, and with our JRC experts from the European Commission, to ensure that they're relevant both in terms of academic output, but also as policy use. Some of the items used in the Chronos panel have been newly developed, and some of them are items that have been used in the past in existing surveys, the ones that both Wouter and David mentioned earlier. And we decided to use the same items to collect the data. And this allows for some comparison with previous data, existing data. The panel was fielded in 11 countries, and these are the 11 countries. So Austria, Belgium, Czechia, Finland, France, Hungary, Iceland, Poland, Portugal, Slovenia, and the UK. And I will show you in a second how you can, if you're interested, for example, in documentation related to each one of the countries, you can find that on the data portal, on the ESS data portal. So there are, as we discussed, different tasks for each one of the pillars, and we have created what we call the engine room for each one of the pillars, and this is basically what drives the whole research. So it's the academic experts, the research fellows, so David, Julia, and me, and together with the Chronos team, from the European Social Survey and the JRC experts. And we have worked closely together to kind of come up with what is needed for each one of these tasks. So the inventory of cross-national survey items that David presented was a very large task, where we reviewed 6 different European surveys, and we ended up with a total of about 10,000 items. We strongly recommend having a look at this. It's quite a useful resource. I go back to it regularly because it puts all of the surveys together. We have also created data summaries. So these are reports available on the Infra4NextGen website, based on data that was already available. So before our Chronos data was released, so data from the different research infrastructures, different surveys that was already available. We've also constructed and fielded survey items for Chronos 3, which is the new data. And we have conducted analysis of the panel data, and we've prepared materials for the deliberative workshops. So in terms of content, here is a bit of an overview of the questionnaire content for all of the pillars. So these are the 5 pillars that I keep mentioning are Make It Green, which is our pillar of interest today. Make it equal, make it strong, digital, and healthy. Each one of them has 18 items per wave, as I said, in total 90 items for the 5 waves. And here is a bit of an overview of the different topics that each one of them covered. For the green pillar, we have, as Wouter presented already, pro-environmental behavioral changes, support for different climate policies, climate change distress and impairment, and a few other ones that I'll show you in a second. But it's worth maybe having a look at the other ones because you might be interested maybe for the research project that you're conducting to look at the green items, I don't know, maybe compared or in terms of equal or strong or digital or the healthy ones. So you'll have a bit of time later on to kind of go through each one of these topics and see which items are relevant for you. Okay. Now, I don't know why. Oops. Okay. So these are the topics that were covered in Make It Green. I have put a document in our chat earlier this morning when Wouter was presenting about this, and these are the topics, the different topics that were covered, and you see in that document you'll get more details about it. So it's about climate change. In the first wave, for example, we looked at climate change salience, reality, cause, worry, and environmental concern, and so on in different in the next 4 waves. So Wouter also prepared some ideas for the workshop for today. So here are some ideas that you might find inspirational for when you're looking at the different available variables. So for example, who experiences climate anxiety? What are its consequences, for example, for well-being? You could also look at climate anxiety and climate action, so how climate concern, anxiety, and efficacy beliefs shape behavior and policy support. You could look at the youth well-being and climate anxiety, so the role of social support and social media. You could also investigate climate justice perceptions, so perceived responsibility, contributions, and fairness, who is affected and who should act, and what is fair in climate change policies. There's also the option of looking at different behavioral patterns and lifestyles, so clustering of high and low carbon behaviors. You could investigate politics, trust, and climate policy support, so political orientation, responsibility perceptions, and support for climate action. You could look at inequality and climate engagement in looking at income differences, for example, in concern, behavior, and willingness to act. Or maybe the last idea that we have for you is information, environments, and climate attitudes. So the role of social media exposure, information trust, and misinformation. These are just some ideas. Of course, you're free to do whatever you want, but in case you're struggling to come up with something, maybe message us, and I can send you this slide as well. So now I'm going to give you a bit more of an overview of the Chronos data. Now let's see how this is going to work. Okay, so can you see, I hope you can see my
yes,
browser.
it's ESS portal.
Excellent. Yes, so this is the ESS portal, and you see here we have the European Social Survey, Chronos, and other related studies from the ESS. You can already look for variables here if you're interested in doing that. This is the European Social Survey. Like if the landing page is on the European Social Survey, and you have here the data from different rounds. If you click on the integrated file, it takes you to here, to a place where you can find different information about it, so the geographical scope or the version, but I'm not going to talk about the ESS. I will mainly focus on Chronos. So you click on Chronos and then go to Chronos 3. And here are our 5 ways of data from Chronos 3. You can browse by country. So let's say if you're interested only in data from Finland, for example, you can just click on Finland. And here you have a bit of information about the Finnish data collection period for each one of the waves. the response rates for each one of the waves, and the case count. And here you have the documents, a bit more information again about the mode of collection, the response rates, the geographical scope, and so on. You can download the country data just by clicking on this button, or you can move between different countries. So let's say you might be interested in Hungary. So you click on Hungary and you have the same information for Hungary here as well. So here you can, if you're interested in downloading the data by country, you can do that. You can also investigate things by looking at the theme. So here is, you click by browse by theme. You have the 5 different themes or all items together. So let's try make it green. And here you have a little bit of information about the Make It Green pillar. So the theme focuses on promoting environmental sustainability and the transition to a low carbon economy across Europe and so on. Here you have details for each one of the items, the variables that was used. The ones that Wouter already presented, so you can see if they were used in the wave 1 or 2. For example, we have one variable that we've looked at longitudinally. This is more for methodological interest to see how they would compare. So this is the variable, how worried are you about climate change, that was asked in wave 1 and wave 2. So we have data from both. And yeah, you can skim through all of them, and by clicking on them, you get the actual variable. You also have the option of clicking on all items, and here you get the 824 variables, which might be a bit daunting, but if, again, you can use the filter to look at the different variables. For example, you might want to look at climate change, and you see that you have 35 variables that are related to climate change, right? You might be interested in well-being, and you have one item here. Let me see, maybe if I put this, no, that's it. Okay, so sorry. So if you click on, let's say we might be interested maybe in wave 2, why not? And you click on the study documentation, you get all of the information about the study. But if you click on wave 2 edition 1.3, the additions are because there are different data releases. If we find any issue with the data, our colleagues at SICT release the data. So you click on that, on edition 1.3, and here you have all of the variables that you might be interested in. Here are the details for the Make It Green. So maybe, let's see, humans are meant to rule over nature. You click on this one, and you already get a bit of an overview of this variable. So you have this graph that you can even download if you want. You can download the data. You can download it as a PNG, PDF, however you wanted to do it. If you're interested in seeing the data table, you just click on View Data Table, and you get this data table here. You might want to just copy this data table if you want. So this is basically a way of kind of assessing the variables without basically without downloading all of the data files. So you might want to try some things first and then decide which ones you want to use and download them later. You can also do a bit of analysis. So basically let's see, let's select a green theme. So, for example, own actions can help prevent worsening climate change. And here you get the overview of the different countries. But if you want to do some analysis, just to see how things look, you can add a variable here. And for example, split the responses by different age groups, under 35 and over 35. And then you'll get a little graph for each country, comparing the under 35 and over 35. And If you remember, the main aim of our project is to look at young Europeans' attitudes. So this is an option to compare younger with older Europeans. So the under 35s with 35 and above by country, for example. So this gives you a bit of an overview. You get an idea how differently the different countries' beliefs are, but also between different age groups. Okay, so now let me see. So as I said, the data is on the ESS data portal. You click on Chronos and then Chronos 3. You can browse by wave, by country, by theme. You can download, I don't think I mentioned this, but you can download the data in CSV, in SPSS or Stata. You have the variable viewer where you can look at one item at a time or by country, or you can use the analysis, the online analysis tool by comparing two different variables. Again, this is one of the things I do most of the time, the under 35 and over 35, but you can do different things as well. So this basically concludes our introduction to the green workshop. And what we've done so far is outline a theoretical and conceptual framework to give you some ideas for potential research questions and topics to investigate. We presented the various data sources that you can use, and depending on your statistical skills, you should now have the tools to download the data source of interest and collect and conduct your own analysis using whatever statistical package you're comfortable with, or you can use the analysis tool on the ESS data portal, which really you don't need to have any skills, and you can just need the interest, and you can use that particular tool. So in the next few sessions, you'll have the opportunity to try all of these yourselves. We're here to help, so if you need any help, just let us know. And now we will move to talk about the hands-on research project.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for all of the talks so far, and I hope you all guys get a bit of inspiration on this green topic about different dimensions that you can investigate within the topic with the different data resources that we presented, and that the tools that we also discussed that can be very, very helpful in this exercise. So basically, throughout the day, we would like you to work on small hands-on research projects. And the idea is that you collaboratively investigate a research question that has a clear academic or policy significance related to the green topic. And throughout the day, you will have several sessions where we will guide you through the main tasks. And the tasks will be first select a research question, then plan your investigations, identify relevant data sources and analytical methods that you can use. Then also what's important is assigning team roles with different responsibilities from like data analysis to preparing visual outputs. And then you will have time to conduct your own analysis and identify results most relevant to your research questions. And at the end, we will have every team will have around 10 minutes to present the final output.